Will we run out of unique concept-driven videos? My answer is, in fact, yes.
I don't fully understand why a creator would do something that has been done many, many, many times before, unless they were convinced that they had a totally fresh new angle on it. I think you're right that these things have a bit of a shelf life, but I think at any point you could have said house content is saturated, house content is dead, and then somebody just puts a spin on it.
It doesn't matter if it was new to me. I just think what's also real is that we will hit a point where it's all been done.
If you really want to do something that is unique for you and maybe unique to the community, it's getting hard. And when you don't do that, I think you can come off to a lot of people as being very lame. Nobody wants to be that person.
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. It is TCU's Day. We are here live on Discord. I am Kevin Lieber, and with me as always is Matthew Tabor.
Yeah, and I want to mention a couple things about our programming of late and in the very, very near future. We're on a bit of a string of not having as many guests on. That is intentional, and we want to explain why. This is the insane season. And I mean, like, December is absolutely everything for online creators. If you work with brands, I don't know what it's like for let's say artists who do commissions, things like that. But if you do anything with brands, if that's part of your professional life, the absolute slam comes in November and December. There are a lot of reasons for that. And we talked about it when we went through like how do brand deals work years ago. Well, number one, nothing has changed in terms of the calendar. But a reminder there is Q4 is where the money gets spent. You got to spend money in budgets by the end of the year. Campaigns are slamming for the brands because it's around Christmas and Black Friday and all of this stuff. It just adds up to being a crazy, crazy time for basically all the people we would want to talk to. Almost everybody is inundated, and even the ones who aren't, they've got the holidays, you know, it's bookended by Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's and all that stuff. And you know, like, okay, this is a really good time for us to talk about some of these things that we've been wanting to talk about for a while. And before we hit the record button, anybody who's hanging out in the Discord heard that we've got some guests for January already. We're happy to resume once this season is passed. But we did want to explain why we're doing things like the rules for life. If I had it my way, I would do like the 5 things every adult needs, which 3 of them, I'll give you a hint. 3 of them are a tape gun. You need a really good tape gun in life. You need a dead blow hammer, roughly 12 ounces. And now I know that you need a laser level. I've been boring Kevin to death over the last 24 hours with how incredible the laser level is. But there are like 5 things where if you have those, your life will just be shockingly better. And you'll never know, you'll never have guessed what they are. But those are 3 of them. And Charles Kahn has a good tape gun, the U-Haul one of the reloadables. Seriously, get a good tape gun. They're like $15. The cello tape is cheap. It will serve you well until the end of time.
I just was not expecting to start off with the tape gun evangelizing at the top of this episode.
Trust me.
You just never know exactly where we're going to go on the Create Unknown. Well, I have a plan for tonight's episode of where we're going to go, and it's actually a subject that I spoke to Rusty Cage about over the summer a little bit, but that was an episode, Matt, that you were not available for. So you and I really haven't had this discussion. And this topic came up just the other day from one of our TCU alums alt history hub. And it got my kind of gears turning again. I was like, you know what? We should revisit this because I think it's more relevant than ever. I think it's worth approaching from several different angles that I have kind of written down here. But the tweet that that Alt History Hub sent out was a screenshot of about 5 YouTube videos with all the exact same title and roughly the same thumbnail. The title of the videos was "What if Godzilla was real?" ? That's the title. And then, as you can imagine, the subsequent thumbnails for "What if Godzilla was real?" were various images of Godzilla.
Did they have Godzilla in them?
They did. They did.
Yeah.
There were kind of menacing and cool and towering photos of, Godzilla being destructive and awesome. And the caption from Alt History Hub, the reason that he tweeted this was he asked simply, "Why so many of these?" Which I think is great. Just why so many of these? And that is really the catalyst for, I think, a larger, perhaps, hypothesis that I have, which is, will we run out of new YouTube videos? Now, that's like the clickbait version of this question. I think the more granular, detailed question is, will we run out of novel, unique, concept-driven videos? That, I think, is a real question. And it's a real question that I have. And I guess you may suppose that my answer to this question is, in fact, yes.
I think I have the opposite take here. So I'm excited to hear you lay out your grim analysis of the end of creativity.
Okay. So first of all, this is not the grim analysis of the end of creativity. That's not what this is.
Yeah, but my position gets stronger if I start by negging the idea you haven't even explained yet.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that. However, I am of the opinion that there are a finite number of videos that will fulfill like a certain amount of things that you need to hit in order to make a YouTube video. So a great title,
okay,
a great clickable title, a great thumbnail, and some sort of new idea to explore. Now, wait. I also want to start by saying that, like, I want to be clear that this is about sort of like novel, concept-driven videos. It's not like Moist Critical is going to run out of things to talk about. It's not like like commentating people or like anything that has or like tech review, like Marquez is not going to run out of new tech to talk about. That will never happen. Yeah. He will always have new videos. There are gaming creators will always have new games to play, new games to talk about. Mm-hmm. Movie creators will always review new movies. There are plenty of YouTube creators now and in the future that will have essentially an unlimited supply of creative content to make that people will be interested in inherently. Okay. However, I think that the types of videos that are based on, for instance, questions like what if Godzilla was real, are limited. There are not that many of them. What Rusty and I were talking about back in August was his guillotine video. And he was saying that they're already, so he has been building this guillotine for quite a while. I highly recommend people check out Rusty Cage's guillotine building. Well, now he's calling it a lemonade stand.
It is a lemonade stand. Yes, it is.
To bypass YouTube. His lemonade stand building
you should
progress.
See it cut a lemon.
It can cut.
It's so efficient.
Cut the heck out of a lemon. But he was even saying that he's struggling to come up with ideas at this point. And even the guillotine building idea itself is something that there are already a couple of other people who have done this, like building a homemade guillotine. And his question at that time back in August was, how many build your own guillotine videos do you need? And to me, that's one of the questions surrounding this concept. So, and that's why I loved Alt History Hub's tweet, because he showed like 5 what if Godzilla was real videos, which, let me mention, Jake from Vsauce 3 made one 7 years ago that wasn't even on this list. It wasn't even one of these because the title was different. I think Jake's was like, could Godzilla exist? which is the same video. It's just, it doesn't show up if you search what if Godzilla was real, but this is the same video. So how many what if Godzilla was real videos do you possibly need? 5, 10, a dozen, 2 dozen? Is there a limit?
I don't think there's a cap. I don't see why there would be a cap. I mean, when you run out of something fresh, it's hard to reach the end of anything. But don't the people watching decide? Don't they determine in a way what people make? So, like, let's say I'm gonna blow this up. Give me 1 second to blow up Cody's screenshot here, because I want to look at the views specifically. Now, I think it's worth pointing out that in these 5 videos, it looks like 1.7 million, maybe 3 something. It's too little for me to see. 1.5. I mean, 1 million. There are a lot of views on these videos. If people didn't want to watch them, they'd all have 10 views. So as much as I think, why would a creator do something that may not be unique? And I haven't watched any of these 5 videos, so I can't comment on how similar they are to each other or to Jake's video or anything like that. But those are the 2 questions. It's like, why would a creator do this? But, well, why would somebody watch it? And what I know is that they are watching it. And that to me says that we haven't reached the end of them. I feel like this with TV too, where I know, Kevin, you and I have a real tough time watching television now because a lot of stuff does not interest us. A lot of it is rehashing and derivative and all of that. So like another swath is gone in terms of us being excited about it. But people are watching it. I only watch network television for sports, so I don't see a lot of shows that are on ABC, NBC, whatever. When they hit Netflix or something, I'll hear about them and I'll look. And man, I try to watch those shows, and they might be in their 5th or 6th season. Like Manifest is one of them that has multiple seasons. Man, people are watching this because they keep making it, and I watch it and I'm not into it. So I'm stuck here because I don't fully understand why a creator would do something that has been done many, many, many times before, unless they were convinced that they had a totally fresh new angle on it. And I also think, well, does it even matter because people are watching it? So I'm really torn here.
Let me lay out a couple of things that I've thought about this that I think are very different than comparing this to TV. And maybe that will change because of streaming, but I don't think so, because even with streaming, they've been deleting things. So first of all, TV is not doing great. It's a lot of stuff is not doing great. Like even streaming, like Netflix is way down. Warner Brothers crashed, and now they just announced today combining HBO Max and Discovery Plus. That's just going to be one thing called Max. Peacock is losing money like hand over fist. Like these things are not doing well. And there was a lot of controversy earlier in the year when Warner really took a dive and they brought in a new CEO, I believe. Anyway, there was a lot of controversy around things being deleted from HBO Max. In particular, I remember a lot of animators, a lot of animations were just deleted. So that, to me, when I first saw that, my initial thought, because I'm old, was like, yeah, well, that's how TV works. That's how TV works. Shows are on the air for a while, and unless they go to syndication, they're gone. You cannot watch them anymore. Like, that's how TV works. Like, Cheers was on syndication for a while. So, yeah, you could watch Cheers. You could watch Seinfeld. You could watch whatever.
The Andy Griffith Show.
SpongeBob. Yeah, because those were like the 1% of the 1% of shows that people wanted.
Smoke.
They wanted to watch over and over and over again for 25 years. And do you know what happened to the other 99.99% of TV shows? They were gone. You could not see them anymore. They weren't on VHS. They weren't on, DVD for the most part. Like a select tiny amount would even make it to like home video or something. They were gone.
That's true. Yeah.
But
and they were expensive back then too. When if you wanted them, a box set of some terrible show was like $79.
Yeah. Yeah. The box set of Wings. Like if you want to buy like the complete Wings, or like Major Dad. I don't know if Major Dad made it to DVD, but like that's the kind of show that would just disappear. So that to me was the norm. So so it was fascinating to me, all these people upset about their show being deleted, because it represented a tremendous paradigm shift when we think of content today. And I think part of that paradigm shift is because of YouTube never deleting anything. Like, unless you do something horrendous and your channel gets deleted, or they make a mistake, whatever. We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of people's channels being deactivated, but unless your channel is deactivated for some sort of violation, it's up, it's there, it exists, and it's not going anywhere. So that represents a fundamental difference to me when it comes to like how many What If Godzilla Were Real videos where they're like, yeah, I guess you could keep making them, but the second result in this tweet is from 8 years ago and has the most views out of all of these. It's actually Alt History Hub's video on the subject. It has, nearly 2 to 3 times more views than everyone. It's 8 years old, and it's not going to be irrelevant 8 years from now. It'll be just as good. Technology will not, I don't think, get that much better. Like, will it sound better? Will it look better? Will there be like some sort of technological leap where you need to see What If Godzilla Was Real in 4K? Or 8K or whatever. The information will be the same. It's like square cubed law science.
Why does it have to be the same though? So like, I'm just making this up on the spot. So pardon me. Give me a pass here if I throw out something stupid. Although the last time, the Spooking Hour podcast that I invented with Charles Kahn, when we were talking with Ben, that was a good idea, and that was on the spot. The Spooking Hour is a great concept for a podcast. But like I said, I haven't watched these 5, but I assume that they're a combination of, what would happen in the world if Godzilla was real, or in terms of evolution, like biologically, is it possible for Godzilla to be real, and his powers and the effects of that and all that stuff. But why couldn't somebody make a video that's like, okay, if Godzilla was real, a segment of the population would create a religion out of Godzilla worship, because there's this almost all-powerful monster that is now dominating the planet. That's a take that may not have been done before. I don't know. It seems like there are a lot of offshoots.
Though. Like, it doesn't matter what the content is, right? I'm talking about like just the question and the thumbnail. So if people search "What if Godzilla was real," they're just going to get roughly these whatever the first five suggestions are. Will be what they click on. And it's like, how do you break into that if the one from, let's say, 20 years from now, if the one from 28 years ago is still the one that people click on, then it doesn't get replaced, because unless YouTube,
the algorithm can replace it.
It could. And that's the part I was going to get to, is like,
okay,
there's a way out of this potentially if the algorithm changes to just kind of dump old videos and subsequently incentivize new ones to be made.
That's dicey. That seems really hard to do, because the algorithm on YouTube, on Twitter, on literally everything is so good, but it has limits. It has limits. So like a thing I was complaining to Kevin about a month ago is eBay's suggested items are actually very good. I went to Boston University. I like some vintage clothing from that school. They suggest Boston College items to me way more than it should. And well, look, college and university are conceptually the same. Think about this from an algorithm's point of view. Boston College and Boston University. These are two very different institutions. But in terms of suggesting items, it makes perfect sense that I would get items for both. It's an example of the algorithm not being able to recognize that nuance and being a little bit dumb because it's so smart. I don't know if the algorithm would do a good job of cycling out the videos that really should be replaced. I don't think it's there. I don't think it's going to be there soon. We've talked about this, Kevin, with educational content and Vsauce 2 content, where you've done videos on topics that have been done before. People have made videos on topics that you've done after you've made very good detailed videos about them. And that's in both scenarios are totally fine because the content is different. But how would the algorithm know when it's time to kind of swap out? You know, let's say Cody's Godzilla video is authoritative and exhaustive and definitive until it isn't, until there is truly a better one. I don't know how you would know that other than stats, which really don't speak to the quality of a video, you know, the relative quality of a video. Because people are going to watch a new thing because it comes up more often. It's new. They follow the new people. There are a lot of YouTubers that don't make videos at all anymore. So they are just archived on the website as creators and their content is archived. So they're just at the mercy of YouTube throwing that video at somebody because they're not throwing anything at anybody anymore. I don't see how you could do it. I don't see how you could do it any other way than just being like, oh, this is hot and popular, and so we're going to put this in slots 1, 2, or 3. It would push down potentially a better video and push it out. And well, congratulations, you've buried a better video. That's not great.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just wondering long term as we move forward, if there will be any sort of like filtering process that YouTube will instantiate to try to keep things fresher or not, or just say, yeah, like that. What if Godzilla was real video from 18 years ago is still just as good as the new ones?
I don't know what you've been sipping, but you've got it all wrong. It's time to commit to the Leaf. We've embraced the smoothness and surprising pick-me-up that tea provides. I literally drink it all day long, nearly a gallon a day, and it powers me through research, script writing, and forums on websites that I refuse to name here. But we don't drink normie NPC tea. We drink cultured and refined anime tea from the Dragon's Treasure. Kevin still likes the gunpowder green called Space Cowboy, and I've sampled nearly 40 Dragon's Treasure teas at this point. Lately, I've been slamming black teas like Kentucky Bourbon and liquefied Berserk Despair. Scottish Breakfast is deep and peaty, and I smooth it over with Sebastian's Morning Earl Grey, which has the best vanilla cream taste I think I've ever had in a cup. Give me a pot of that with a hot meatball sub from Sal's Pizza and Brooks Barbecue Chicken to wash down my last meal on death row. I highly recommend the sampler packs. You'll want to try everything just like I did. I literally have not had one tea that I wouldn't be happy to reorder. The Dragon's Wings membership fuels new tea experimentation, and the Tea of the Month Club provides a regularly scheduled surprise. And when you order from the Dragon's Treasure using code CREATE, you'll get 10% off your order. That's 10% off using the code CREATE at thedragonstreasure.com. The link's in the description.
But I also want to say real quick, I'm not suggesting that like people give up on making a thing just because it hasn't been done before. Like clearly I would never suggest that or recommend that, because you can always put your own spin on it. You have your own audience. They haven't watched that video before. Like they like you in the way that you tell the story. Like there are many, 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 many reasons why it will still be viable. But,
right.
but at some point, I think it's just going to be, there won't be new ideas to do. Like everything will have been done before on this front, because, unlike in the past where if it's, we're talking movies or TV shows or even like the music that you have access to now, like the sheer volume of people who are just cranking out content all the time is insane. There's no gatekeepers. It's not like, oh, I have to get like funding for this superhero movie that I want to make. It's like, I don't have to do any of that. You just make it. So everything is crowdsourced and just being pumped out like crazy. And to me, we are already seeing a lot of the edge. I would suggest seeing the edge of like viable ideas. Even, when we spoke to Nigel about like the chemistry videos, it's like at some point, all of the low hanging fruit is plucked and you're going to need to start coming up with like really crazy ideas just to have a video to make. That's just like the natural progression. And I see this with a lot of my EDU colleagues on YouTube, where so many of the EDU creators now are creating more experiential content than they are conceptual content. It's much less about like, hey, what if Godzilla was real? And it's more like, hey, I'm going to go to this crazy place in, the Czech Republic or something where this water tower exists that's bizarre, and here's why it's bizarre, and here's how it works. Like, that's what I'm seeing much more, which is experiential and personality based, and less like I'm gonna sit in my house and read a bunch of stuff about water towers and then make a video about it.
I do think the landscape is changing a lot, and Charles Kahn has a really important comment in the episode chat where he says, I wonder at what point are YouTubers competing with themselves? All the new Vsauce content is going up against all the old every time something comes out. And that's what happens here, okay, is that over time, you are not only competing against everybody else who's making content right now, you're competing with everybody who has made anything ever, okay? So think about this with music because it's very, very clear. In 1957, Elvis was competing against Jerry Lee Lewis and, a handful of other people. That type of music was brand new. There was literally just a few years of music that we would call rock and roll. Right now, if a band puts a song out, I have to choose to listen to that song, number one, over everything else that's coming out right now, and number two, over every bit of rock music produced in the last 70 years. I don't listen to a lot of new music. Kevin and I were talking about this just last week. I don't, because I'm kind of saturated. I mean, I do like older stuff anyway. This is just my personality and my interests and all of that. But at the same time, like, there are so many great songs that have been made that I have access to. What do I need brand new ones for? I kind of don't. There are tens of thousands of baller albums that I've never listened to yet that came out in like 1966. I haven't even scratched the surface of the music that exists that I like. How am I going to find anybody new? Well, we're seeing that with YouTube now. We're in that period where, it is like 1970 with rock music, where are you still listening to Elvis from the 50s? Are you listening to new Elvis like Suspicious Minds? You have to start making choices, and the artists themselves are now competing against each other. The industry is massive. A lot of people are making music. There aren't just like 3 radio stations that play rock. There are dozens and dozens in every city. And you're competing against the catalog of what's already there. So what do you do? It's a tough spot to be in. And Kevin, since you were at the beginning of YouTube and you're now still functioning in the saturated era of YouTube, do you like it better now, or do you like it better when you weren't competing against 10 years of yourself plus 10 years of all of humanity?
Oh, obviously it was way easier before. It was a lot easier and it felt a lot more experimental. It doesn't feel nearly as experimental now. Like back in 2010, 2011 or whatever, it definitely had that sort of Wild West excitement around it where you could do anything, and like a lot of things hadn't been done before, and people were like coming up with new formats, and now it doesn't feel like
there
that.
Are no rules.
It feels,
there are no patterns.
Yeah, there were no best practices and, oh, you have to make your thumbnail look like this and use this color back. That didn't exist. It was definitely more freeing then. And I don't know, it seemed less rigid for sure. For now, it seems very rigid. But there are a couple of more concepts that I want to throw out during this concept or during this question. One is that I also think that we will run out of, I don't know what to call these, but maybe like outrageous idea videos. So I have a couple of like really obvious examples. What's Inside made those like outrageous videos where like, Dan and Lincoln were just cutting stuff in half and seeing what was inside. What's inside a rattlesnake's rattler? What's inside
a bowling ball,
a baseball, a bowling ball, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, eventually they just kind of cut everything that they could think of in half.
Right.
I mean, if you look at their channel, you can see like they sort of did it all. And that's sort of what I'm trying, like, that's a really good example to me of what I'm trying to get across is like, at some point you've cut everything in half and and the novelty of that is gone. And I don't know whether it comes back or not, is there like a new What's Inside 10 years from now because people haven't seen the old one? So there's like a new interest in cutting things in half or squashing them with a hydraulic press or, slicing them with a 1,000 degree knife. I don't, or dropping things, off a building, or at some point, like has the zeitgeist changed and we don't really find that interesting anymore.
I think this is fluid, and this really is the part where I thought I was going to disagree with you, because I think it's totally fine. I think you're right that these things have a bit of a shelf life, but I think they're cyclical and fluid. And I have a specific genre that I think demonstrates this. How are you at impressions, by the way, Kevin? I actually don't know this.
Not very good.
How good are you? Not very good.
No.
Yeah, I cannot do anything. So with shows about homes, this is the sphere that I think demonstrates it. In the 80s, there was a show called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and Robin Leach was the host. He had a legendary voice. He was a British guy. That voice is, I don't know, influences so many voices associated with wealth on TV and movies and commercials and stuff now. Without Robin Leach, you don't get that voice. If you haven't heard it, look it up. He had a bunch of catchphrases that were cool. Anyway, the show was going to mansions and showing how fantastically wealthy people lived. The other genre of show was extremely on the nose, how to, like Bob Vila's shows. It's like, here's how you fix your stairs. Here's how you get your stairs to stop creaking.
This Old House.
This Old House, Home Again. These were the two subgenres of home stuff: crazy wealth and practical how-to. By the 90s, it evolved a little bit. New Yankee Workshop, with what was his name? He had glasses and a beard on New Yankee. It was a great show. Yeah, and Charles gets it again. I'm getting to MTV Cribs in the 90s. That was the extension of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It was people showing off their houses when they were, famous for music. That was a cool show, and it was personality based with the hosts and all that stuff. That was cool. Guess what? There's not a lot of that anymore. I think people got tired of seeing crazy wealth. They got bored. Norm Abram, he's New Yankee Workshop. Norm is right. They got tired of seeing crazy wealth, and they got tired of practical, here's how to unclog your sink TV shows. So it started to change, and it became renovations. It's like, no, now we want to see total shithole houses turn into livable houses that people enjoy. Or it's that same kind of thing, but there are limits on it where it's like, what do you do with $25,000? What do you do with $10,000? Or How do you make a specific room in a house look awesome? All of this stuff changed, and that was the evolution on it. And then it became personality driven again. You get people like Chip and Joanna Gaines, who Martha Stewart pioneered that as well. She wasn't doing home fixing, she was doing decor, but people started to like the individuals involved. Same with cooking shows to some degree. And then it turned into game shows a little bit. Where it's like, all right, here are 3 people who are going to flip houses who can flip for the most money. This is just the natural evolution of house content over the last 40 years. There might be a time again where we want to see multi-million dollar mansions. I say 50 because we know a $7 million house in San Francisco is like a doghouse. But the really insane things that are like lifestyles of the rich and famous. Maybe that comes back. I don't know. But I think at any point you could have said house content is saturated, house content is dead. And then somebody just puts a spin on it, where I think we're going to have house content. Oh God, the tiny house shows. That's a new thing that has become near dominant on some of those things. Baseweight says house content is thriving on TikTok. I believe that. People love this. They love home shows. The old ones like New Yankee Workshop and This Old House, they're still going. The reruns are still going. So people like the old catalog too. It's not as grim as I thought. I don't know what's next. I don't know what the next angle on home content is going to be, but I think there's going to be one. I think in 2026, there's going to be something that we're not seeing a lot of now. And I feel like with the crazy content, that'll kind of happen. Maybe hyper charitable stuff is in for a long time. I know Mr. Beast does some of that now, where he just like knocks on somebody's door and gives them $100,000. But maybe that is big for 2 years. Maybe it's insane percentage returns on somebody. You give somebody a paperclip and be like, in 90 days, what can you trade to make the most? And that's a reality show. I don't know, but I just feel like there's not an end to these.
I do. There's definitely an end to these. I swear it's coming, because look, first of all, it's not comparable to TV because there are only so many channels and there are only so many shows that get greenlit. With YouTube, you have like the whole world constantly making these videos. And so it's accelerated at a rate that is absolutely not comparable to TV. Like house shows are on like one channel, HGTV, basically. So, and how many shows are there that are popular? Like 4 that they probably just play on rerun all the time. So, but YouTube, it's just like a crazy amount of like everything is accelerated to such an extent that it's unfathomable and incomparable to other forms of media in the past. So I think there's another, so when it comes to this content that's like, wow, I've never seen that before. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, people that we've had on TCU, Alan Pan, I Did a Thing, William Osman, Michael Reeves, their bread and butter is coming up with something no one has seen before. That's just outrageous. So how many t-shirts will stop a bullet? That's a video. Okay. Giving a snake its legs back. That's a video. Yeah. And when those videos drop, they get posted everywhere. They get freebooted, they get stolen, they get re-uploaded. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. Everybody wants to see that, and everyone's talking about it. And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is what a snake looks like with, robotic legs." Or, "Wow, like this guy, proved that 74 t-shirts will stop a bullet," or whatever it is. There's only so many of those videos that can be made. Because the amount of things that you can do that will make a good YouTube video that people haven't seen before, it has a limit. And I don't know when we hit that limit. And I would love to ask someone like Alan Pan, like what he thinks about this idea.
We want to help you make something and mean something. And we say that phrase all the time because when you're making something and you know it means something, even if it's just to you, that's when you feel pretty good about what you're creating. The support for the Create Unknown in recent weeks has been incredible. Animators, artists, musicians, YouTubers, aspiring filmmakers, comedians, it is crazy how talented everybody in this community is. Consider joining the Create Unknown Patreon. Every dollar that comes through goes straight into the podcast and its community. That means more highlights videos. It means a big Minecraft project that's on the way. And eventually we'd like to manufacture custom piss bottles so you never have to leave your battle station. And being a patron unlocks participation in all of our live recordings. You've seen the roster of guests we've had. Having access to their minds is a unique opportunity. You can go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown or click the link that's in the description. Every little bit helps, and your support means absolutely everything to us. Patreon.com/thecreateunknown, links in the description. We appreciate you, Space Cowboys.
But first of all, I'm just going to make this up off the top of my head. I should have thought about this more before we started recording. But think of how many boxes that you need to check to make like a no one's ever seen this before video. First of all, it has to be safe to do. You can't.
Does it though?
It has to be safe enough where you're willing to do it or someone else is willing to do it.
Okay.
It has to be legal. It cannot.
Does it though?
Well, unless you want to implicate yourself in some sort of illegal activity, it has to be legal.
And if you're not checking these boxes, by the way, you're going to get demonetized, suppressed, kicked off YouTube, whatever. And then there goes the sustainability of your entire enterprise here. So you do have to check those boxes just so you can continue to exist.
Yeah. Okay. So it has to be safe enough to pull off. It has to be legal to pull off. It has to be something that no one's ever done before. It has to be something that is a concept other people will resonate with in some manner. Like it can't just be nonsense. It can't just, it can't.
You have to understand it.
Yeah, it can't be like pure random. Like that can work, I guess, to some extent, but not to hit the masses. Like the masses have to be able to relate to. I know this sounds really vague and conceptual, but like people have to be able to relate to it on some level, like the giving snakes their legs back thing. That's something that probably like a 5-year-old thought of when they were like drawing a snake and then put a couple legs on it and then giggled at. Like that's a thing.
I think with the t-shirt and bullet one, that's super easy to understand because it's like if I'm wearing a t-shirt and somebody shoots me, it will not stop a bullet. However, at some point, there will be enough layers of t-shirt to stop a bullet. How many layers is that? Like you look at the title and instantly know what's going to happen with the crazy idea. And I think that's really hard to pull off. Things can get pretty niche pretty fast.
Yes. Thank you so that's another one of the check boxes is that the idea has to be easily explainable and understood in a title of a YouTube video. Which is, typically going to be around 7 words long, 7 to 10 words long is kind of all you get to explain the thing.
Get a bumper sticker.
Yeah. So it has to be explainable in bumper sticker length, and then also have like a really engaging thumbnail, like it's thumbnailable in some way. So like one that I saw the other day was, and I forgive me, I don't remember the creator who made this video, but it was swimming with sharks while bleeding. That was
that's awesome.
That was the title, swimming with sharks while bleeding. And it shows like this great thumbnail of the guy swimming and like blood is streaming off the back of him towards like a great white shark lurking in the distance. Like that is a perfect title and thumbnail. And so when I see titles and thumbnails like Alan Pan's giving snakes their legs back, or this creator who I'm forgetting's like swimming with sharks while bleeding, I think to myself, how many more of these do we have in the bag? Like how many more years of coming up with this? At least new ones. Like I've already conceded that like people can remake these videos forever and put their own spin on them. But like the days of like, this is a new thing this is a new idea no one's done before. They're numbered, and I don't know how big the number is, but
I don't think they're numbered. I don't think it's a finite well. And but I think the problem is that we can't guess or see things that.
How could it not be numbered, truly, though? How could it not be numbered? How can there be an infinite?
Because things keep developing.
Yeah, but there's there's only so many ways you can constitute reality.
I don't think so. I think there's an increasing relationship with reality. So let's say you're Marquez or Austin Duncan, and YouTube exists in 1958, and you have an electronics channel. There's not a lot you can talk about. I mean, a couple different companies make TVs, and they're all basically the same thing. You've got some radios you can talk about. You have a couple formats of music you can talk about. But you can't really predict what you're going to talk about in 10 years because or 20 years. It's beyond your understanding because it hasn't been invented yet, if that makes sense. But obviously they have channels now with many, many, many evolutions in the future of those devices. So when it comes to electronics, we can have a general sense of this. So like it's reasonable for us to say that in 25 years, somebody could be reviewing like brain implants that augment reality for us. Like that's something we can conceivably think is in the future. But when it comes to what's going to be interesting, like in a creative way, I don't think there's a path to look at to where we could guess at what that might be. And so it looks like we're always at the end of the path, or close to it. And why I really can't shake this idea is I can't help but bring this to a little bit of an academic sphere. There's a concept of the end of history that many, many people have embraced. Thomas More in Utopia thought that history would end. Well, I need to say what the end of history means. The end of history means that we reach a state where we stop doing new things. We hit a political system that works so well, we don't want anything else, and we don't ever do anything else. We kind of reach the end game of everything. That's what the concept of the end of history means. Thomas More had it in Utopia. Karl Marx thought that communism was the end stage of history in that sense. In the 90s, Francis Fukuyama had a book called The End of History and the Last Man that was kind of revolutionary at the time. And he thought that the same thing, that we were kind of hitting a point where we figured it out and there's not going to be anything that can come after that. What I can't shake is that every single one of these people has been wrong. Their arguments make a lot of sense. They especially make sense at the time. It was perfectly logical why Hegel and Marx and some of the others thought that a particular system would be the pinnacle and that we'd be done when we got there. It turns out there's more to it. And they most of it they could have never, ever, ever seen coming. I don't know if it's the same thing that's happening with YouTube and creativity, but I feel like there's no end. I think it changes along the way. You could do something 10 years ago and people were going to see it more easily than they see it now. Like you can make a Godzilla video and 3 people watch it. If you make that same video 10 years ago, maybe 3,000 watch it. But there are effects from the saturation and sameness of ideas. There's a trickle down that is serious and changes this whole process and what it's like to be a creator. But in terms of the raw ideas, I don't know if there's an end to it. This gets a little weird, but there might be at a point when we're like uploading the contents to our brains and some computer can come up with every conceivable end to the combination of ideas in an individual's brain. Well, maybe at that point we realize that
I think that's what's happening, though. That's already what's happening. Yeah, because essentially what you have right now with the internet is like a hive mind of a ton of people coming up with all of the ideas all of the time. You have how many like millions of people and each one of them comes up with 200 ideas to make, and there's only like so many combinations of like wacky questions to ask, or
Right.
or like Mr. Beast style like challenge videos to do, that at some point you're just doing things that people have already done before. I don't know. Like, I just don't see how, like, we ran into this on Vsauce 2 with like math paradox videos. It's like at some point you've kind of made them all. Like, there's not an infinite number of those to do. And I think that this extends to not to all types of content, but to probably what I have ill-defined as like concept-driven videos. Like the birthday paradox, like that's a very specific concept to talk about. Or even Charles Kahn in the episode chat tweeted, he posted a screenshot of like swimming with sharks while bleeding has been done a whole bunch of times. So that video that I saw the other day that was new, there was already a video 4 years ago with 3 million views that someone else did, and several others as well. Like, this is not a new idea.
But it was new to you. You didn't realize
I know, but
until
that's
that was
not my
posted that it had been
point.
done.
But that's not my point at all. Like, that's not my point at all. It doesn't matter if it was new to me. My point is that you can keep redoing them forever, and there'll always be a new audience. There'll always be people who haven't seen it before, and you as a creator will always be able to inject your personality, your editing style, the music that you like, a new approach to it.
Sure.
That is totally real. I just think what's also real is that we will hit a point where it's all been done at least once by somebody.
Hasn't it happened? I mean, I feel like
maybe it's
I feel
already
like everything's
happened.
been done.
Maybe it's already, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's already been. No, it hasn't already been done. Well, maybe it has. I don't know.
I feel like everything at best is a variation on something that has been done. I mean, I'm trying to think of the craziest example. If you started to search for porn being like the most shockingly FBI is going to break your door down in 7 minutes because you typed this into your computer level stuff, that's been around for thousands of years. The Marquis de Sade, where the term sadism comes from, that's hundreds of years old, where whatever is going to get you arrested now is an offshoot, an evolution of something that somebody was thinking about to some degree centuries ago. So yeah, Conrad says Rule 34. Yeah, I mean, there's Rule 34 in like woven tapestries 1,000 years ago. Some milkmaid had a twisted mind and was porning up everything. But yeah, I feel like everything is old, and I've brought this bit up in the past from Ecclesiastes. It's the origin of there's nothing new under the sun.
Well, I think we disagree on this
really
too. That we'll disagree.
I really
with
do
this
feel
too.
like everything is that nothing is new.
Because giving snakes,
tell me something new. Then
giving snakes their legs back was new. No one had done that before. Not in a YouTube video, and not like building a robot that walked that you stick a snake in. Like, no one had done that, and Alan did that.
So the question is really is how much does it matter that it's tied to something else, that it's like a new chapter in a very, very old thing, because, a dangerous snake is literally the oldest story we've got.
What does that have to do with this though?
I think it's a new take on a saga that's gone on for 8,000 years. I don't know. It's original in the sense that nobody has done that, but, I mean, playing around with animals conceptually is something that people have always done.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's not like, people talk about this with Tolkien and the languages that he created. Are they completely original? I mean, they're derivative from all sorts of languages that he studied forever. That would not be the same as like inventing a language that's like a mix of fart sounds and clacking stones together. That's probably something that nobody has done before. Whereas Tolkien was using established elements of language to come up with something new. So, yeah, I mean, the things that aren't derivative are things that nobody values and nobody would really do. Like this stone crushing fart language is never going to happen for all sorts of reasons. But yeah, I just feel like everything is derivative. And the question is, can you do it in such a way that it's adding to the massive body of whatever's been done? Are you making a Godzilla video that, for whatever reason, somebody's watching yours instead of the 9 million ones that have already been done? Can you make it worth your time for making it and their time for watching it? You know, Alan found a really cool way to take a concept that is as old as time and make it relevant to now and awesome. If you can do that, and I think that process is, I don't see an end to it. If there's an end, and maybe that's naive to think that it can go on forever. I would admit to being naive in thinking that. But
because
my general belief.
I find your belief totally contradictory. Like there's a total paradox in what you're saying. Because on one hand, you're saying that everything is derivative of essentially like our reality, right? Like there's only like a set of
pretty much,
there's pretty much only a set of like things in reality that we can draw from, whether it's like making a video about a snake or making a video about sharks or money or jumping on a trampoline. Like there's a finite set of like agreed upon things that exist in reality, and everything is all ideas are derivative of that. So I'm saying that like we already only have a finite set of things that we all interact with, pay attention to, and can draw upon to make a YouTube video about. So downstream of that, there's only a certain way to put that puzzle together that would make a good YouTube video, that would make a good title and thumbnail that you could do safely and legally, that would be novel, such as giving snakes their legs back with like robot legs. Like that's downstream of like snakes exist and robots exist and like snakes don't have legs. It's like a flow chart.
I was thinking that too, like a tree with branches that keep getting finer and finer and more of them. I do think that the further down the line you get on everything creative, the further along you get on this tree, and I'm saying that the tree is infinite. There are root branches, but I think the tree is infinite. The question is, as you get further down, can you stand on the limb? And I think it is getting much, much more difficult. And that may be the end. I can see it being too difficult to pull off. And think about like just like books that everybody knows. Jane Austen wrote love stories, a lot of classic love stories, a couple of 100 years ago. They stood out. There's a reason why we still know her name, and Netflix is pumping out Jane Austen shows and variations on them like crazy, and people like them. But if I said to you, write a book that's going to be really popular, that's a love story, oh my God, how could you do it? Like even the most popular one of the last 20 years is Twilight, and that was almost accidental. You know, it was a self-published person whose story happened to catch on. Nobody planned it. It wasn't some massive publishing house that figured it out. It is way, way harder to deal with these ideas as you get further down that flow chart. And there may be a point where you can't pull off the ideas that are constituted fresh. That I will concede to. So there's a bit of a conflict between ideas and process here, where like the reality of making a video that has those basic rules that you outlined, and I think those are all perfectly appropriate. It's getting harder and harder to do. I don't know. I think at a point that would kill the platform, where people just say, I can't do anything on this platform. I will do something completely new. I'll go to, and I don't know what that platform is. But like, even with TikTok blowing up, that was in a way, it's like, hey, it's really hard to make YouTube videos. It's a tremendous amount of effort. Well, making a TikTok in my bedroom with my phone for 30 seconds is not as hard. So when one got too hard for people to pull off, they developed an interest in the really easy stuff. I think Twitter is super easy too. I mean, writing a Facebook post that mattered was hard work back in the day. Really tough. Writing a tweet that's funny or worthwhile or whatever is infinitely easier. So yeah, I do think that it can be the death of a platform because the process gets too hard. And when that happens, people are likely to switch processes, switch to something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the platform can evolve similarly to how you described the evolution of house shows. Like, I think that, there can be different content that people will love, that you and I, this isn't the Luddite argument. There can be entrepreneurial innovations in content that we can't foresee that'll be super popular. I don't know what they will be, but that's the point, is that you don't know what they'll be. My instinct is that it will further be sort of personality based, but at the same time, I do want to.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do want to reiterate again that, like, the world is really big. New people are being born all the time, and you can build brand new audiences who will never have seen your swimming with sharks while bleeding video, and they will watch it and they will love it just because 37 people have already made that video. You can make it again, and I think that will be fine. I guess the last thing I would say about, and this might help people understand a little bit more how I'm thinking about these ideas, is that in a lot of ways, I think Mad Libs is helpful, where like the title of a video almost is like a game of Mad Libs. And if people aren't familiar with Mad Libs, because that's a boomer reference,
kids still do those?
I don't know. That might be an old man reference.
Can somebody under 70 in the chat tell us if kids still do Mad Libs?
Yeah.
Googling it.
Yeah.
Oh God, the first thing that comes up is 90s Mad Libs.
Oh,
so yeah, maybe not.
Man. Well, then no one will understand. They won't get this reference. Can you describe Mad Libs to our younger audience?
Yeah, there'll be a story and there are blank words in it. And your task is to fill the blank words without knowing the story with a part of speech that fits. So you'll get a list, let's say, of 15 things, and it will be noun, verb, sport, food, things like that. And you make the list, and then you're given the story to punch those things in. So you get this nonsensical, just ridiculous story, which can be very funny. I don't know. I guess it's something that people don't do anymore. So like, I just popped into Wikipedia, exclamation, adverb, noun, adjective, and you come up with those things, and then you get the sentence that those go in. So you just don't know what you're writing until you've chosen the words. After you've chosen the words, you find out what you've just written. So, I mean, it's endless, but I guess people don't do it anymore.
Yeah. So then as a 10-year-old, you inevitably just write like pee, fart, slimy, burp, doo-doo.
Yeah.
And then it's this really funny story about burping and farting.
Uncle Pete farted on the watermelon for his birthday. You just get idiotic things. And they did them in school all the time. I remember Mad Libs pass out a worksheet of Mad Libs as a time killer. I never found them that fun. I didn't like nonsense when I was a kid. I still don't.
Yeah. Well, that's how kind of I think of YouTube titles as Mad Libs. It's like there's a certain combination of words that people will click on that will be really exciting. And, there is an end to that. I don't think there was anything else on this subject, that I wanted to hit. But I think that it's an interesting topic. I loved Alt History Hub's tweet about it. I like thinking about it. I liked, Rusty's comments about it when it comes to building his lemonade stand, because I do think that if you are the type of creator who wants to do something that no one's ever done before, it's getting harder. It's unquestionably getting harder to do that. It just is. So I think that there may need just to be a paradigm shift in creators' brains to perhaps not worry about that. I don't know. Maybe just not factor that in anymore at some point.
I've never understood a massive component of this because it's something that you don't do, which means I've never had to help you do it. We've never done it on the podcast either, which is chasing anything. We have literally never done any research of any kind on keywords and what's popular and what's not. We haven't done that. And I understand that most channels do, at least to get a basic sense of what's popular or what people want. I don't know how that works because I've never done it. I think that process is probably changing for the people who do it. I don't know how you do it anymore. I don't know how you find what sticks out. And as the harder it gets, also the more obnoxious it becomes. Like it's so obvious now. And I see this with commentary people where some dumb drama thing will happen, and then a few big videos come out about it, popular people, and then there's a rush of like 50 small commentary channels that rehash the same things. Like, okay, you know this is a hot topic, so you decided to do your take on it. I get that, but I wouldn't do that. You know, that's not my personality. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Like I wouldn't feel good about myself is what I'm saying. If you really want to do something that is unique for you and maybe unique to the community, it's getting hard. And when you don't do that, I think you can come off to a lot of people as being very, very lame for being a hanger-on on a topic. Nobody wants to be that person, I don't think. Sometimes you have to be to build up in a specific sphere. You've got to do that to get popular. But I don't think anybody looks at it and thinks like, yeah, I want to be the 47th person to talk about a topic with every video I make until the end of time. I always want to be 47th. Nobody thinks that.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I'd love to hear, more from people listening, what they think about this. But ultimately, I don't want this to be, or really to come across as a doom and gloom thing. It's not that. It's really just something that I find interesting. These are the types of things I notice and I think about. And I personally haven't really come across people talking about this all that much. Maybe they do.
It's hard to talk about.
Yeah, maybe they.
Really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of guessing. Well, number one, it's really hard to pin down what you're actually talking about in the first place. It's hard to pin down a specific thing with creativity and audiences and all of that. I mean, it's really tough to define the problem, if it's even a problem that matters. Like, is this purely conceptual? Is it okay that we're going to recycle the same shitty video ideas for 80 years and people are going to keep watching them? I don't know.
Yeah, no. Those are real. So those are real questions. Yeah, those are the questions. They are. Yeah, those are the questions.
I don't know how to answer them. So like you can't even answer the question that then you need to think about and talk about. Like this whole thing is impossible.
That's why I wanted to bring it up. I like that. That's the most interesting thing to talk about.
The stress of this, what you did here today, the stress of this caused me to crack a second diet birch beer. I never have to go twice into the well. I'm a one can, one show kind of person.
Yeah.
But no, like 10 minutes ago, I had to mute the mic so I could snap the can open. I mean, I just had to turn to an additional dose of medicine. It was that stressful. Oh, we do have a couple questions. Can we hit them real quick?
Okay, yeah,
Did anybody pin them? Oh, I don't think anybody pinned them. Yeah, well, I mean, some of them, like Conrad's about whether an idea has to be new or just, is a new spin on an old thing as valid as a new thing. That's the stuff where it's like, who knows? I do not know the answers to that. Some people certainly have, I know like with music, there are snobs who's like, oh, if this sounds at all derivative, it's shitty, dumb music, and they're really into, prog stuff and whatever. I don't know. But generally, is there a good answer? I don't know. But we can hit Charles's last question.
Well,
because it's
real quick, Matt. I just wanted
you
to
got
say
an answer there. Okay.
No, I don't have an answer, but I can think of a moment in which it does matter. The only moment it does matter is if you want to do a thing that people haven't seen before, and perhaps it will go viral and people will talk about, and they'll write Wired articles about or whatever because Alan Pan gave a robot legs. That happens. I personally have never made a video that did that, but there are plenty of times where people will come up with like a very new, crazy thing that still happens to this day and will still happen for a while. But those are rare. Those are the types of things that are really just hard to do and becoming harder to do.
I knew there's a good one in the mix, and that's what made me think that we'd pinned them. You gotta answer this one, Kevin. This is from Dan the Latch. Will we run out of original, interesting, and monetizable video ideas? Do you think there's a wall on hitting those three things? Because we didn't even really go into that. We talked about the original and interesting and the consequences of that, and doesn't matter. But is the monetization element, which matters to allow people to continue to make stuff, will that make it impossible to be original and interesting until the end of time?
This is a great question. I hadn't thought of.
That's a really good question.
Because I could see, oh my gosh. And okay.
That's a
first, wait. Okay. Warning. Do not take my advice. Please do not do what I'm about to suggest someone will do. This is not an endorsement of this idea, and I didn't give you this idea, okay?
The last time I followed one of your bad ideas, I had a rash that I can't go into detail about for a week.
Okay. But here's the idea. I could see somebody getting really, really popular, making really edgy Mr. Beast style content where it's all demonetized, but they could be
bum fights.
Well, I mean, I think bum fights was illegal, wasn't it? I think bum fights actually was illegal, and I think that got taken down. So you would have to be like tip of your big toe on the line, like your big toe's thumb, like nail, like your toenail is like hovering over the line. But you do that with every upload. They're all demonetized, but there's still some, like maybe Patreon allows you on their platform to still get paid. I don't know. I don't know exactly how this will work, but I could see some like notorious creator coming out who does sketchy stuff that's just that stops just before being illegal, but is like immoral enough.
Yeah. So like if you took somebody who loved their pet and said, I'll give you $100 if I can kill your puppy. They're like, no, this is stupid. Well, do you find out that person does have a price? Will they trade $7 million in the security and life that comes with that $7 million to sacrifice their puppy? Like that would be a horrible video.
Horrible.
The process, of getting to the price point where somebody sacrifices their cat or dog. But so that's like the evil Mr. Beast.
Yes.
I don't think that would be a problem if it was like a thought experiment where somebody truly believed that their pet was going to die, but you never actually did it. If you kill the animal, then you're violating terms of service. But if you just talk about this, I don't think that you would actually violate anything in the TOS. But it would be horrible. Yeah, it would be awful. Would you watch that video? Probably. I bet a lot of people would watch that kind of video. It exists. Yeah, this is bad advice, Kevin. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. But there has to be the possibility for a channel that's just abysmal morally, ethically, that the content still stays up.
Right. Yeah. It's just on
heinous.
The line. Yeah. Like horrible, heinous content that YouTube can't do anything about. Like, I don't know how close you can get to that line before YouTube says, like, this is a net negative
balancing
for society. But I think that's coming. That will happen. Somebody will figure out how to be the evil Mr. Beast.
Somebody will take the chance on it. Yeah. Oh. Well, good. I'm glad that we got to a good place with all of this.
Yeah. Evil Mr. Beast, euthanizing pets for money. That's a good note to end on. I'm glad you came up with an example for that, because that's a good enough example where it's like,
it seemed to fit.
Yeah, I think it works, because I think you could kill the pet, not on camera, but like, why couldn't you follow up and be like, yep, like Mr. Wiggles is gone. Here's your money. And you hand them this briefcase full of cash, and no one feels good about it. And then even the people who took the money, I mean, their lives would be ruined. They would be harassed forever. None of this would be good.
Dan's got another one. I recreated the trolley problem in real life, 4 exclamation points.
No. You can't kill people. You have to recreate the trolley problem in some way where like murder wasn't involved.
What if it was something that people didn't like cockroaches or mosquitoes, where, yeah, you're technically killing an animal and that might violate terms of service. But what if it's something awful? Like, you've got these mosquitoes that will absolutely infect you with malaria. Can you come up with a trolley problem of malarial mosquitoes? Is there some point there at which you flip the switch? I don't know. It's you could go down, you could pull threads on this idea and really make a human reviewer at YouTube just want to jump out of a building. Maybe that's the goal of the channel. Is like, let's cause human reviewers to lose their minds.
All right. Well, I think that we've hit the end of this discussion. It's a good one. I think it's interesting. Thanks to all of our patrons for hanging out with us and for giving us good suggestions and being just active in the chat. It's great to see all of you. If you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown to support the podcast. If you want to hang out with us while we record the podcast, just join the Discord. We will be back next week. Just Matt and I again, waxing poetic on things like snake legs and
tape guns. That's it. Tape guns, dead blow hammers, laser levels. That's it. Yeah.
No meat dehydrator. That's not in the top 5.
No, okay. I don't think that's necessary, because food is so cheap and you have so many options to cook it already.
Okay.
But it's really tough to replicate the motion of a dead blow hammer. And you will be assembling enough things in your life that you don't want to mar the surface of. And you don't want to grab a book or a piece of wood or something. You don't want to have to do the half-assed way on this. Like, no, you have a proper dead blow hammer. Your life will improve.
Okay, go get a dead blow hammer. We're out of here. We'll be back next week. See you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We make this show with the support of our patrons. 100% of that goes directly to keeping episodes going every week, and the recent support has been amazing. Sid Poke, NRM, Venture Addicts, Weezer Good, you all really do make this show happen. Thank you to the Tots and Dumpster crew, old and new, who save tiny little lives every month. Thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry. Clemente de los Santos, Dan the Latch, Demetrius Andrews, Erica, Farrakhan, Jen Mefasanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Monahim, Natsu, Penny Peddler, Risebread, Ryan Kinder, Samuel Manser, Sean S., Sean Malone, and Tom Vidioger. And a tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang commanders: Atrocious Guff, Kat, Dojangles, Graham Robertson, James Gallagher, Jeff Davis, Orange Vanilla Coke, Patrick Pister, TCU's personal pilot, Andy, Ryan Carroll, Baseweight, Vinthos, Yeetus Deletus, Jonas Walter, Nathan Robinson, Jelksies, and of course, Trevstead. You are the elite. Thank you as well to our indentured servants, producer-editor Ben Webster, Minecraft mogul Laterman, Discord kitten wrangler Conrad, and producer emeritus Dan Yoshua. Thanks to Baseweight for use of Created in the Unknown for the opening theme. Thanks to Electro Voice for giving us mics to sound good on top of it. And a special thanks to Main Gear for powering all of our PC endeavors. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production in partnership with Studio 71.